Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Another WWE Premium Live event is in the books as Payback has just wrapped up from the PPG Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Game Over Pro Wrestling, everyone. My name is Peter Klein. That is Arune Singh, and this is Game Over Pro Wrestling with a lot to discuss, both in the WWE and elsewhere. Arune rocking what is the true, I would say, real world championship, but that's going to come up a little bit later. We have a lot to cover on this show, but before we get to all of that, I do want to remind you that you can get in on the action and make your bets with Sports Interaction. Every hit, every shot, every goal from all your favorite teams and players with competitive odds, the best in live in-play, and more ways than ever to get into the game, like Minute Madness, our exclusive game with so many opportunities to win by the minute. Download the app in Ontario, use the QR code you see at the bottom of your screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 years and older, please play responsibly. There are links in the show notes if that is an area you need help with. So this is the post show for Payback, a show that had minimal expectations, but Arune, we got a couple absolute bangers out of this show. First of all, how are you today, sir? And second of all, what were your overall thoughts on this show before we get into some of the specifics?
Hi, I'm Arune Singh. I'm feeling perfectly hydrated by Prime. I'm also hopefully sponsored by Panago Pizza, deep cut. No, I have an effed up back, so as we sit here, my back is spasming and hating me. So I very much relate to the main event from Seth, though clearly less injured. But I honestly, I don't know how WWE does this. I will tell you that usually the big four pay-per-views, I feel a bit of and then I come to these pay-per-views and I do it every time. I think it's going to be a B-level show, and I think we got a great showcase, a spoiler, of why pro wrestling is better than maybe it's ever been pound for pound.
Yeah, the quality of performers in the WWE right now and across the world, it's second to none. And shout out to you for the dedication to the show by injuring your back so you can really know what Seth Rollins was going through in that main event. Your dedication continues to absolutely be unwavering.
I want you to know I also turned on my parents in their holidays because I wanted to relate to Dom. So I'm going all the way next. When I see Andrew Berkshire, I'm going to kick him through a barbershop window. We're going all the way.
Oh, nice. There you go. I might come up with a bloody face and a Pittsburgh Penguins shirt tonight. We'll see how it goes. But I am already filling out way too many wrestling stereotypes as a dude with a neck beard doing a podcast from his parents' house. But just visiting. That's where we're at here tonight. Let's get right into the main event as Seth Rollins retains the World Heavyweight Championship in a hard-fought victory over Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought they gave Nakamura the superstar treatment, that they got the manga inspired entrance video at the start. Keiji Muto is at ringside. The obvious story of this match was that the back injury of Seth Rollins, and they worked it well. That little where they have the break on the ropes and Shinsuke just gets that smile on his face and he's rubbing the back. Like, that was just absolute perfection. But I thought the storytelling of this match, working on the back, I thought they, for lack of a better term, Arune, worked that to perfection.
I mean, I like the puns. I feel less like dad joke. You went with you around, Peter. No, look, I will say that I always liked Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought the presentation in NXT was great. My experience with Japanese wrestling is really an early aughts thing. You know, there's not a lot of like recent Japanese wrestling I'll pretend to be familiar with. I've never watched any of the classic Kenny Omega matches, any of that stuff, but the Nakamura we've seen, the promo packages in the on Raw, that is one of the coolest MFers I've ever seen in wrestling. That dude is awesome, and it's an interesting quandary they find themselves in. The same was true to me with Finn before that. Every time someone's facing Seth Rollins, you're getting the best version of them. Whether you got to give Seth credit, he clearly pulls something out. That title means something to everybody competing for it. And I think now we're 2 for 2 where I really wish Finn had won the world championship. I really wish Shinsuke won the championship. And I'm a big Seth Rollins fan. And I love the fact that you came to this match with Muta and the crowd thinking Shinsuke's going to win and being completely okay with it. And when Seth won, I was completely okay with the result, though I had some questions about the finish. But I want to say, like, that was the psychology of the match was great. It was this is a trend in a lot of the matches today where people didn't seem stupid. Like Shinsuke didn't give up on any attacks. He kept attacking. And I really like that he was trying different moves and he was almost like some of the times he felt like he was spamming with Rollins. And I really enjoyed how vicious it felt. I think it may be the single best presentation of Nakamura in his time between WWE and NXT.
Oh yeah, well, 100%. Like this felt like New Japan Shinsuke Nakamura, and the promos where he gets to cut them in Japanese. You have the captions, which are big on social media now anyway. The whole thing was just spectacularly done. And like you said, they stuck to the back the whole time. There was a spot where he just threw him off of the barricade onto the table. Michael Cole again, I thought was tremendous on this night, where he was kind of like, oh wow, the corner of this thing dug into his back. Mm-hmm. And those little details like that. We get a landslide off of the top rope for a 2 count. Rollins kicks out King Shasa, which looked like it might have been it for a second. It wasn't. And then the finish, as you mentioned, Nakamura goes for a roll through. Rollins just keeps going, hits the stomp, 1, 2, 3, and he remains the world champion. Your thoughts on how this match wrapped up?
Honestly, I felt a bit anticlimactic, even if on paper it made sense. Like the stomp, every time I hear out of nowhere, I feel like the RKO felt like the truly out of nowhere thing, and I feel and out of nowhere is a phrase that to me belongs with the RKO. I say as an unabashed Randy Orton mark. He's the guy who got me back into wrestling with this Hogan feud. So I've been out for like a decade. So I have biases there, but yeah.
I just said, wow. That's not one that I've heard has brought people back, but that was a really good one with the RKOs onto cars and stuff like that. That was a solid one.
Yeah, I remember playing SmackDown versus Raw 06 though. So my brother's like, you're gonna really like this guy Randy Orton. I said, is his gimmick being a frat boy douchebag? So basically I'm like, I'm in. And a guy in your mid 20s, like my MySpace page was all me doing Orton poses and photos. It's a shock that I was single. But he was I actually thought the feud with Hogan was so ridiculous that like I remember when he RKOs Hogan on the car, and then is it Brooke Hogan, his daughter comes and she goes, "What happened?" And you're like, you don't know what happened. So anyway, enough Orton talk. That could be a separate podcast. I just the stuff kind of it didn't feel epic enough for what had been such a big match. And so, but I guess if you're trying to make the stomp out of nowhere a thing, you got to start somewhere. At the end of the day, the only surprise to me was that there wasn't something after the match. And I think they kind of told you earlier that, Priest was leaving the building with that Money in the Bank briefcase. So I wasn't sure if that was a swerve and he might come out and try to cash in. It felt like a perfect time. To have a Judgment Day United and fractured again if Damian takes on the belt. There's another development that made me wonder if Seth would keep the belt for that reason of that development. But I was even surprised Shinsuke was just walking around the ring yelling. Like I thought he'd come back in and try to kick the crap out of Rollins. So it may sound nitpicky for what I think was, an incredibly strong match and a very strong main event. Certainly, it was not the LOL Cena wins or LOL solo interferes for Reigns to win. I just felt like there was one more gear, and I never felt like he got there. But incredible match. And again, if we are to believe that Ron really does have this injured back, it's incredible what this guy keeps doing. So more power to him. He is, I'm holding a belt I associate with Bret Hart, and in a lot of ways, Rollins feels like a modern day Bret Hart to me.
Yeah, it's just he can have any style of match. He can go out and, like you said, like he has elevated Finn Balor to the levels that we all thought Finn Balor should have got to, and then he elevated Shinsuke Nakamura to the levels we thought Shinsuke Nakamura should have got to. Yep. So he has been a real star maker over the last couple of weeks or last couple of months, and a real MVP on that Raw side. And like you said at the start of this, establishing that World Heavyweight Championship as something that is important and not. It still does feel secondary to whatever's going on with Roman, but Roman may not be around for a while. So this is the time to really make that belt feel special, and Seth is. I was with you where it felt like we were just starting to get into that top gear. And then the stomp happens. And when it happened and there was that bit of a delay in the cover, I was like, okay, that's how they're going to get out of, he kicked out of this unkick-outable move, is that it's just going to take him forever because of his back to get the cover. And then he just won. And it's the way that they set things up for, I guess, later, but the camera just hung on him so long that I was with you. I was like, is Brock coming out? Shinsuke is going to come in. Are we going to hear CM Punk's music? Like what is going to happen that we just stuck on him for so long, and then we just got the music video, and that was the show. But like I was with you overall, a main event, but certainly not a show stealer by any stretch of the imagination, as this was a card that had a lot of real good matches on it. But I guess just to close the book on the main event before we take a look at some of the other things that we saw, what do you think is next? Do you think that they run this one back in Indianapolis, or do we get a fresh challenger for Seth Rollins come Monday night?
I'm jumping ahead, but I'm going to tell you what Survivor Series is going to be. Jey Uso, World Heavyweight Champion with his team versus Roman Reigns, WWE Champion, and his team in Survivor Series main event. That is what I'm telling you is going to be, because it is the perfect story. And, I obviously we're going to talk about Jay's return, but once he came back, I just said world champion. That's what it is. World champion right there. There's no doubt in my mind, because the story is too perfect, and the feuds come out that are too perfect. And if you're going to give, and I think the great thing about Seth is he could lose the title and he wouldn't seem weak for it. Someone would be elevated, and he has a plethora of challengers, especially after some other results tonight, of teams who could go singles. And there's a lot of opportunity. And so while I'm a big fan of one world title to rule them all, if the Reigns Championship is going to be booked the way it's been booked, and that'll be a separate conversation, I'm sure. I think this is absolutely necessary for this title to change hands very soon, because we do not want to have yet another men's championship that just does not change hands for 6 months. We don't need WCW Attitude Era booking where it feels like it's changing every week. But I'm all for some short reigns.
Yeah, it's funny when they were in the main event, Michael Cole said, well, Seth Rollins is looking to establish his own 3-year reign. I was like, fucking kill me. Please don't do that. But man, just thinking that you could do, I'm piggybacking off of your idea now, which is basically what the show is going to be. You say something smart and I'll just oh yeah, ditto. But if you did that where Jey Uso wins the world title, they do the Team Jey versus Roman. At the end of the match, Jimmy comes out, beats the bejesus out of him. Damian Priest cashes in Money in the Bank. So now you've set up Jimmy and Jey, not that they needed more blood feud, but set it up one final layer for them to face off at WrestleMania. Damian Priest goes off and does his own thing. And the world is a much better place. So I think there's a lot of intriguing ways they could go. And we've just laid out one for you.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I think if you book that even further, I think the story that we have not got to is Jey and Sami, and that is what I think. My real brother. Blood maybe doesn't matter as much as love, and that is. I think there's so much great stuff to come there. I don't want to spoil that conversation. This podcast does need the Grayson Waller rub, so we'll get to that when we get to that.
As always, thank you all for watching. If you are watching, make sure you're subscribed to the channel already. Like this video, tell your friends, and they can tell their friends, and we can be friends here on the weekends. Yes, this is something that we're really trying to build up, and the more pro wrestling fans in here, the absolute better. The night starts with a banger of a match, as it was Becky Lynch taking on Trish Stratus for the end of their feud in a steel cage, and I thought this was fantastic. Some huge spots off of the cage. There was a superplex off of the cage of Becky Lynch onto Trish. Zoe Stark makes her way into the ring, breaks up a pin, gets hit with a manhandle slam. Trish tries to escape, eats the manhandle slam off of the top rope. 1, 2, 3. Becky Lynch moves on out of this feud, and Zoe Stark with a babyface turn after with the attack on Trish. I guess we can get into the post-match stuff after. What did you make of what I thought was a phenomenal way to kick off this pay-per-view?
I want to say, and this is not trying to get indie cred, but when I lived in New York, I used to go to ROH shows all the time. And it's really interesting to see all these ROH people I used to watch all the time go big. And I say that because there were some incredibly stupid, irresponsible, and enjoyable as hell matches, death matches, people going through tables, position on tables on top of ladders on top of tables, because of course that's what you do. Insanity. I remember Cena and Generico, great stuff. But what I always felt when I watched those matches, and I watched a lot of, I think, cage matches in other federations, groups, companies, and I'm not just picking on anyone, is that oftentimes wrestlers seem stupid. Like they stop climbing for some reason. They walk too slowly towards the door. It's stuff that just, for a microsecond, takes me out of the match. And what was so interesting in my roundabout way of saying is that no one ever seemed dumb in this match. And it is one of my favorite cage matches I've ever seen because it felt from that killer video package that somehow cut out all the fat and maybe you can argue the awkwardness or missteps along the way. It made you feel like you're going to see this epic, epic match. My wife, who hasn't watched any of this, but is a wrestling fan, big Becky Lynch fan, she saw it, like, this sounds like it's going to be awesome. She was glued to the television. And this match delivered. They looked, if you wanted to show one match to someone to explain why women's wrestling is awesome, there's multiple options. Many involve Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, whoever. This is actually this is near the top of my list because it showed intergenerationally how great women's wrestling is. And it really brought up something I want to discuss as we get further into this, which is where does Becky Lynch rank on the all-time women's wrestler list? And look, again, I am not you seem to be much more cultured than I am on this. So I'm looking purely North American or people who compete in North America. I think Becky is the greatest of the four horsewomen. And I think she is an argument for greatest of all time. And she can do it all. And today she proved that again. And Trish is somehow better with age. I don't know what they're feeding her up in Canada, but it's working. And it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And if you wanted to make a case for Becky Lynch as the greatest, well, I mean, just one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, regardless of gender. You would certainly, with the character that she has built over the last little while, you would absolutely get my vote. But for one of the best women's wrestlers of all time, I think you absolutely can make that comparison. And I'm sure, admittedly, like the early '90s All Japan stuff, it's a bit of a blind spot for me. People seem to love it, but so maybe someone will say that this is blasphemous, but I certainly do not disagree. I think Becky Lynch has worked her way into that upper tier. I enjoy what she does more than what Charlotte Flair has ever done. So I would put her at the top. And then Trish Stratus, you get worried sometimes when some of these acts come back from the Attitude Era because this is a whole lot different now, that this is a different ball game, and she looked like she absolutely belonged, and she certainly deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore and in that conversation as well, because she was absolutely phenomenal in this whole thing. And you're right, like that there wasn't a misstep, there wasn't oh, this person's at the top of the cage and all of a sudden their boots are full of lead and they have to climb up very, very slowly, 45 one rung per 45 minutes. This was, everything was just like picture perfect the whole way. And I thought it was an amazing feud. And by the end of it, with, like you said, that video package and all of that, if you wanted to close the show with this thing, I would have had no complaints. I thought it was that good. You get the angle afterward with Zoe Stark taking out Trish Stratus. It seems like Zoe is going to be heading over to the babyface side of things. I think that might be a bit premature. Like, it's a good way to close a book on Trish. I would imagine she's gone for a bit. But for Zoe Stark, I don't know if she's necessarily ready for that jump, but they're going to throw her in for sure. What did you make of that angle post-match?
I'll get to step back. I just want to call it one thing. When people going through highlights, look for the superplex spot. Incredible moment. And again, Trish taking that, what the toll has taken on her body over the years, incredible. So I wanted to call that one out. I will say, I actually don't know. It's something I think about the Triple H era that's interesting. I don't know that I call Zoe Stark a babyface, heel, a tweener. I think she's just going to I think we're going to find out where she lands in the scheme of things. I think people will certainly be cheering for her. I mean, I think we saw Shayna Baszler was, I mean, on some level supposed to be the heel against Ronda Rousey, but, turned into a face-facing crowd reaction. I think what's really great about this is, look, I haven't loved every stage of this Becky Trish feud. It's felt a lot of hurry up and wait a lot of the times, and then it's the wait has been a bit much or awkward. But one thing you can't deny, and I think it's been true since she came up, is Zoe Stark felt like she belonged. She didn't feel like James Ellsworth or someone as, like this person who's going to get beat up.
Yeah.
She's felt like legitimate, and even losing to Becky, she felt legitimate. And that's what I thought was amazing about her and Trish. I didn't see it as like clearly it's protege and mentor, but it didn't feel like someone being dragged up to the main event. It felt like, yeah, this is of course the next thing. And Trish goes out on her back after this, and it's going to be an incredible, uh, I think, statement for Zoe, as opposed to like, oh my God, now we know she's on the rise. She's here. She's earned it. This is going to put the stamp on it, and then she's going to be able to move on. And what's so awesome is Rhea has fresh challengers. Becky, Zoe will be one at some point. Hell, if you wanted to get Trish in there at some point, you could do it too. And while we could debate how little Rhea's defended the title or how infrequently, I think she has a crop of really incredible people to face coming up. And this is there. There have been complaints. I don't know how you feel. The women's division booking under Triple H, ironically, given how well he did in NXT, has felt like it suffered, maybe because of all the injuries. Not casting aspersions. But the last month of it, I feel like the women's division is coming together in a way that you can feel Triple H's fingerprints all over it. It's everyone in the women's division feels elevated. And that was really the theme of tonight. And I agree with you. This could have been the main event. I think it was arguably the match of the night. Only one other option to me. And this was, I couldn't believe how incredible it was. And it felt like a thing that was impossible to follow up. So I'm glad they didn't try to.
Yeah. No, I thought all of it was great. And like you said, it does feel like the women's division has once again rounded into form. I thought Io Sky winning the championship last month was extremely well deserved, and I'm really excited to see where she goes. So the SmackDown side feels like it's building, and Rhea Ripley just feels like a main eventer. We'll get to it later, but she speared Kevin Owens through the barricade, and that didn't feel like it was out of place. So she has obviously elevated things as well, and so I think elevated is certainly the key word for the women's division. If you guys at all want to get in on the conversation, I'm monitoring the group chat. There's a number of questions about the main event. We'll get to that at the end of the show, or the end of this portion of the show anyway. But
I will be right back, guys. I suffered an injury coming here. I'm not joking. My knee is bleeding onto the floor. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
I suffer for the show. I'll be right back, guys. Give me one moment. Right. I just got to bandage it up, and we're back. Sorry about that, guys. It is making a mess.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, nothing more deadly than doing something on the Steve Dangle podcast network.
So, oh geez, yeah, hard way. A rough one here for Arune to as we get in the show. Look, podcasting about wrestling is an extreme sport. I will say that to anyone who will listen. Up next, it was John Cena coming out, the host of Payback. We didn't get a whole lot of him hosting, but we got John Cena coming out, a nice promo back and forth with The Miz. Those two are going to be entertaining no matter what. But what ends up coming from it is John Cena is inserted into the LA Knight versus Miz matchup. And what I thought was interesting, or I think is that the story coming out of this, the amount of times that there was a bit of a tease of maybe some a rivalry brewing with John Cena against LA Knight. There was just a little face-off, and then LA Knight almost punches him at the end, and then as the match is concluding, or after the match has concluded, John Cena and LA Knight are nose to nose. So I thought, for someone who a lot of fans have been clamoring for, like, hey, give this guy more opportunities, push this guy up higher, a few face-to-faces with John Cena certainly goes a long way to pushing you to whatever lengths any fan could possibly want you to go.
I love the age-old trope in wrestling, especially given some of its more homophobic aspects in the past, and is that for the last 100 years of pro wrestling, the only way two men can truly show respect is when their shirts are taken off very dramatically. And it made me laugh that Cena could only show respect if he was shirtless. And I want to just call it, I freaking love that. I love everything about it. I want to say that I hope The Miz is the one to retire John Cena. I think it is the exact right thing for that character. It proves that the WrestleMania win wasn't a fluke. And I think once again, Miz, and I want to talk a bit about Miz. Miz speaks truth. Cena, the host, couldn't even be bothered to open the show. Like did not do a good job hosting. He did make it all about himself, and I love all the details. The Miz's glasses being so reflective. There was a camera where we saw Cena reflected into Miz's sunglasses, and it was just incredible. I don't know if they intended it, but it looked so cool to me. And that was something that really stuck out at me. I also think it highlighted something to me that I want to put out to you, Peter. I want to hear what you think. I think The Miz is on the Mount Rushmore of utility players. What can't The Miz do? If I said, put The Miz in a mid-card feud to elevate someone, well, he just did it tonight. Make The Miz world champion and get someone over. He did it with Lashley, a couple of years ago. Hey, put The Miz in a comedy segment being chased by zombies. Well, he did that a couple of years ago, too. Hey, give us a serious story about The Miz's journey. Remember the promo with Daniel Bryan and Talking Smack? He did that too. Give me a person who you can, if you hear his story, you want to cheer for him. His story, absolutely would cheer for it. I was saying something online today that, in AEW, they've been talking about the real world champion. And in my head, the quotation mark should extend around world. So it's the real world champion. And I want The Miz to start calling himself that because I think he is, when his music hits, I get so excited. Is it just me? Do you feel it too? I get so excited when his music hits.
Yeah, I know for however long the segment is going to go, I'm going to be entertained. And I was one of those people who fully bought in when he cashed in Money in the Bank and he's main eventing WrestleMania. I now have what is probably like a 13-year-old Miz shirt at home. I am 100% on board. And like you said, yeah, he could open the show with a 20-minute promo that is super serious. He can do, like you said, being chased by zombies. He did the super serious story with Bray Wyatt, which obviously has a bit of a different feel to it now, but where the Miz is like defending his home and his family and stuff like that. You can put him on a reality show and he's going to work. You can have him do the morning show in Poughkeepsie if you need him to, or he can go on Good Morning America. Like he can do all of these things. I think he is absolutely Mount Rushmore for this company. And I think I hadn't thought about him retiring John Cena, but man, do I love that. And the promos he could cut after it would be so smarmy and so disgusting, and everyone would hate it. And I love that he still does the it kicks, even though the guy who stole them from isn't even in the company anymore, and they still like, oh yeah, he got that from, we all know he stole that from someone. Like it's just, he gets away with that kind of stuff. And like you said, he is, from where he started being like kicked out of the locker room, everybody hated him. He's hosting this reality show that no one liked, with the Diva Search, finds his ridiculously attractive wife on there, and then turns into a 20-year WWE career. It is remarkable that the journey that this guy has been on. So I'm happy that we're on the same page on this, because he is. I talked about Seth Rollins being an MVP before. That this is one of those guys who was like an X factor for this company for a long time.
I think the thing is, look, this dude gets made tiny balls work as a champ, unironically, right? Like he just, look, he's not going to be my number one. Like Daniel Bryan, I think, is one of the greatest, if not greatest, in-ring technical wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. He's not Daniel Bryan. He doesn't need to be. He's not a high flyer Ricochet. He doesn't need to be. He's the guy you put in there and gets the job done. But he is also a hell of a good wrestler, hell of a great storyteller. More importantly, because that's what this is. I'm not asking him to go to the Olympics. And I think that is what makes him work. Like, there's a reason Logan Paul works with him when he comes in. There's a reason other celebrities work with The Miz when they come in, because The Miz is a pro's pro. And I want to say, no one talks crap about The Miz. You hear all the dirt sheet stuff come out about so many people. You never hear about The Miz politicking. You never hear about him holding anyone down. You never hear The Miz talk crap about anybody. There is, a good friend of mine, Blair Herter, used to be on Road Rules and knows The Miz from the Challenge days. And he has told me, Blair, if you're in America, know him as the former G4 host. He said, he's always said The Miz is a great human being, a great individual. And I look at who The Miz is friends with, the Cody Rhodes of the world, who's not a name drop, but a friend of mine, a really good guy. Dolph Ziggler, who I don't know, but I hear only good things about. The Miz is also surrounded by people you only hear good things about. And there is, I think, a really good people clique of wrestlers that that I hope we all respect a bit more. The Miz may not always be a 10 out of 10, but he's never less than an 8 out of 10. And I think that's the key to what makes him work. I didn't mean to derail you, but like I said, I took a bunch of notes, and this was my Miz note. It's just like, I also thought the Miz, like, again, he was really honest about Cena. You just came out dressed like you. Stop being so lazy. It's those details. It's the truth teller thing that Jericho does well, but it just feels different in a way that is like the Miz. And I think, it's funny. Someone, I saw this online. Someone said, if you get offended by being compared to the Miz as a wrestler, you don't understand pro wrestling. Everyone should want to have a career like the Miz. Like, this guy has done it all. So I say that to say we get to the LA Knight match, and look, I thought the Miz did a great LA Knight impression earlier this week. He just knows how to do it without it seeming mean or cruel and making fun of the Stone Cold and Rock comparisons LA Knight gets. And look, as someone who just ordered 2 LA Knight tank tops to work out in, I'm all on board the throwback. And again, LA Knight's a guy, I think, when people want to criticize him by saying, he's just the Rock and Stone Cold. Okay, I'm sorry. If anybody described me in any area of my life as either The Rock or Stone Cold, I'd be happy. But you're telling me I could be both? That's kind of awesome. No pun intended for this match. And so I will tell you that I don't fully connect with LA Knight in the ring yet, but on the mic and his presence and his look, LA Knight's the guy you showed us, someone who only casually knows wrestling, and he will be their favorite wrestler because he's just that great entry point. I don't know. Are you on the bandwagon? Are you all in LA Knight, or are you skeptical?
Oh, let me talk to you. I have been a fan of this guy since he was the namer of dummies in Impact Wrestling. I have been all about LA Knight, and like, he is Ric Flair in the ring. He is not. Like, I don't think he will ever be that guy, but the presence is enough. And to the fact that people are saying, he's just Stone Cold and The Rock, and that's a bad thing. It reminds me of a show that probably doesn't hold up now. I don't want to go back and rewatch it, but Entourage, where, like, this is going to be a bit of a wind, but just follow me here, where Vinny doesn't want to do Aquaman, and they're saying, he doesn't want to do he doesn't want to be typecast. And Ari goes, you see that? There's Batman there sitting front row at the Laker game. There's Spider-Man over there. You know what they're typecast as? Rich guys. That's it. LA Knight. You're going to compare him to those guys? What are they? Rich guys. He is everything you would want in a superstar. That crowd is so behind him right now. And he could come out and screw up 8 moves in a row, and the crowd is still going to be just going, every time he does anything. Like, he has these people in the palm of his hand right now. This match wasn't a spectacular classic or anything like that. I haven't seen Dave Meltzer's ratings yet. I'm assuming this one isn't 5 stars, but I thought this was kind of exactly what it needed to be. You have LA Knight in there with a couple of superstars. The word of the night elevates him just a little bit more, and he comes out of it feeling like a $1 million player right now.
So just to be clear, do you believe his government name is Los Angeles Knight, or does the LA stand for something else?
No, I believe that his government name is just LA. Like that is just like, so it could be mispronounced. That he could be Law Knight.
Okay,
that could be a screw up there. Yeah,
I cannot wait till his French accent comes out and he joins a new Quebecers trio with Sami and KO. Hockey question though, LA Knight, should he somehow be associated with the LA Kings or the Vegas Golden Knights? Who does he belong to?
See, this is like, he's getting compared to Rock and Stone Cold. He can do both. We're in LA. Yeah, LA King. Perfect. We go to Vegas. I got Knights on the thing. It's the guy is so versatile. He can do that, whatever.
Because we have producer Andrew Burke. Because we have producer Andrew Berkshire here, I just want to say on behalf of Andrew, there's no greater heel move than joining Mark Bergevin. So I think joining the LA Kings, ultimate heel move for Heat. I mean, and look, we know the Golden Knights would fire him in 6 months and they didn't win a cup with them anyway. So, like, he'll probably join the Kings anyway. That's all I got.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm just picturing now if he would have come through NXT with LA Knight and then Vince back in the day, like even 5 years ago, sees him. It's like, your name's Le Knight, and he turns into like this French guy with like just a super French sympathizer gimmick, like they had like 15 years ago with La Resistance.
It would be a great with Max Dupree. It would actually be a great callback. It would work. We could connect it all. Maxime
Oh,
Dupree could be his name.
look at that. We've booked the world title through at least Survivor Series. We have new gimmicks for their hottest star. Like we are cranking out the hits
I have
tonight.
one question for you too, as a big LA Knight fan. We've seen some of the backlash to him already. Do you with any of these arcs, do you feel like we've weathered the backlash and it is what it is, or do you feel like there's more to come? Like, can he go win a title of some kind now, or and when he does, will people sour on him? Kind of like I feel like with Sami and KO when they won the world titles, people started turning on them fairly quickly. Cause do you think that's a risk with LA Knight, or do you think the intangibles there mean that he's already worked through it, or he's not going to have a big problem with it?
I think he's going to be fine because his character isn't going to change a whole lot. And part of it with Sami was that he was the underdog coming up, right? And like he had this different spot in the bloodline feud. He was kind of like his character had kind of progressed, but it did kind of feel like WrestleMania was his peak. And you can only be the underdog so much when you're holding the undisputed tag team championships. And so it feels like that they weren't able to kind of find that next chapter. But with LA Knight, he's just been him the whole time. So he is always going to be him. It's not like he's going to stop being entertaining. And I'm not saying Sami has stopped being entertaining, just entertaining in a different way. But for LA Knight, he has just always been him. And I think he's just going to continue to be him. So that there's always, maybe he won't be like absolutely red hot the entirety of his WWE career, but he is always going to be someone who's going to be super entertaining.
Agreed. Oh yeah, I mean, can we move on to the tag match because I want to talk so much about the winner? Yeah, no pun intended. You brought the. I want to go to that because I want to tell you that I think this tag match is another contender for match of the night, and there's something I want to just go into a little bit of rant. I think wrestling does like brotherhood poorly sometimes. It lacks nuance. It's like it often is almost, and I love daytime soap, but it can be very daytime soap. Like it's a simple misunderstanding. They turn on each other. What I love about both teams here is that they feel like real brothers. Sami and KO, what I love about what came out of Mania is that these just felt like two guys without any other drama. We're just like brothers. You got to annoy each other. The whole like KO, you got to calm down. Great stuff. I've enjoyed them just being Sami and KO without a crisis du jour. And with what I love about Judgment Day is there is no reason that for that group to be together, and that is the best reason. They're all a bunch of bros, and I say that gender agnostic. I love that about that. You could see it today in the way Dom came and checked on stuff. The way they all like put their arm around Dom and are clearly all proud of the guy. The way they all act around each other. The way it's not subsexual. Finn and Damian talk about like brothers fight. And I'm going to take you on a journey. Like, I had a really good friend of mine. I worked with him when I lived in Salt Lake City. We were over summer, just not getting along. Like, neither of us really remember why. And in the parking lot of work one night, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I miss being friends with you. I'm effing pissed off." He's like, "I'm pissed off you too." I said, "Here's what we're going to do." I think this is a very cis het dude thing, but I'm like, let's just both punch each other real hard in the stomach. And I'm not kidding. I said, just eat real hard. No, whatever it is, we're mad at. It's done. We punched each other real hard. Went and got beers. He's one of my best friends. I love him. He's family in every way that matters. And to me, I see that in Sami and Kale, but especially in Damian and Finn. And I love that we are getting this story of we are teasing breakups, getting close to it in the ways that brothers do, and then coming back together. And I don't think there's any way this match could have ended without Judgment Day winning. That would have made me happy. I would have probably wanted to throw a remote at the TV because I think Sami and KO have other things they could be doing right now, and I think Judgment Day as champions gives us. Frankly, I'm a big Finn Balor fan. I think he's incredibly underrated for how good he is, and it gives us not only does it make him finally Grand Slam Finn, which is crazy to think hasn't happened already, but it also opens up fresh feuds for those titles, and is desperately needs to reinvigorate the tag division. It allows Judgment Day to be in all 3 shows and to be that backbone, give us a break from the Bloodline, who I want to talk about more later. I just thought this match was just incredible. I thought it was amazing to hear an Ole chant in Pittsburgh without the Habs being there. And I will say, as a hockey fan, the jersey spot was a highlight for me. When they emerged from the penalty box, I know I've gone on a bit. I know these let you speak to, Peter, but like, I just got excited and was cheering. And it was just like, I love when wrestling just takes you on that journey. It is ridiculous. And it was exactly why pro wrestling is the best.
Yeah. And I thought like that the camera had hung on those guys for a little bit, and I was like, okay, they're going to turn around and Sami and KO are going to like throw trash cans at him or something. And we're going to get back to brawling. And then they come up, and Kevin Owens, who was clipped by an elbow from Dom, so he's bleeding anyway, second only to Arune's knee, which is a crimson knee pad at this point. So KO's bleeding, wearing the Lemieux jersey, and they're just standing there looking like extras out of Slapshot, and it took the match to a whole new level immediately. Like, talking about like the 3-act structure that got us to act 3 in a phenomenal way, and then the spot where they drop the gloves and they just start feeding it to Dominic Mysterio, I thought that was good, and it did build it to this whole other level that you got to. And then the end of it, where Finn gets put through a table, Priest comes in and he eats the stunner, and then it's a haluva kick, and it's like, okay, this is going to be over, because like you said, like, they have been building this kind of like everything's fine in Judgment Day sort of a thing, and a lot of times it's hit all the notes to where now the breakup is going to happen, right? Like, we've seen these kind of stories in wrestling for 100 years where these guys get along, oh, and now they don't, and now they really don't, and now, oh, the thing is broken up, and it looked like we were leading to that, okay, well, now they're going to break up, and it turns and they win the tag team titles, and there is no hint of dissension. I thought it was such a pivot from where things have gone before, and as you had said about other things too, it made sense as well. Dominic Mysterio, they mentioned him in the Rhea Ripley match as well. He comes across as the MVP of the night with a big save with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn lose absolutely nothing from losing this, and it just makes the Judgment Day that much more important. So I thought it hit every note that it needed to perfectly in this match. The brutality of it was great. The spot where Kevin Owens climbs up the stairwell, dives off of the railing, and does a swanton bomb off to Dominic Mysterio. That's going to be in highlight videos for forever. I said this on Twitter. Approximately 1% of Kevin Owens hit Dom, like his whole body hit that floor at full speed, which looked fucking miserable. But like, just everything about this match I thought was perfection. That this was my match of the night, but obviously the steel cage match, loved it as well, but this was just, it was violent art in the best way.
I think this was also like the steel cage match. It felt like that was a really incredible steel cage match. This was actually a good street fight. Like, it felt like one. It didn't.
Yeah.
It did, like, people used everything they could. They went around the arena. I thought there was a moment where Kevin was like bracing himself in that fan before the swanton bomb that I thought was just like, it made it feel more like you were in the arena interacting with everything. You already called it. I think the spot of the match was Rhea. Actually, it's my second place spot of the match. I'll tell you what it is, but was Rhea drilling Owens, because that looked stiff as hell. Like, it looked like there was no support for either of them. And I was at first kind of worried. I'm like, did Rhea just hurt herself? But it was done so well. There is something I want to talk about with JD McDonough after that's a bit more serious, but I will say that my spot of the whole match was when Dom, after the match, once they've won, when Dom is like touching Finn, and Finn is asking if they won. He's reacting to me, so he's like, wait, we won. And it was a perfect little moment of what makes Finn Balor so good. Finn remembered he's supposed to be concussed and out of it, right? Concussed in the general sense. He's supposed to be delirious. So he doesn't know he's won. And so you get that little moment of him realizing he won. He doesn't celebrate right away. And that is why Finn Balor is one of my favorites of all time, because he does those little things. And that is, it's what makes him so special. He never forgets to sell the emotion or the moment that he's in. I mean, look, this is a guy who at WrestleMania could have made a big deal of himself, brings out Glad, kids from, show support for Glad instead. Like, this is just an all-time human being. I say that because I'm going to pivot to something, and I guess I should have brought it up with you before. Sorry, but we'll talk about it, and I promise I'll leave it alone after this because it's serious. There was when the Me Too movement became big, there was a lot of talking about wrestlers. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So Jordan Devlin, now JD McDonough, Matt Riddle, and I know I'm blanking on someone else right now, but there are some wrestlers who, were mentioned as part of this Austin Theory. And I want to be clear: believe women, always, always. Innocent until proven guilty, always. And those two things can coexist. They can coexist. I don't believe they can't. Because of the way the stuff was dealt with at the time, I felt like we've never really got resolution to how we're supposed to feel about Matt Riddle, JD McDonough, and Austin Theory. And again, I don't know them. I'm not here to indict them. I'm not here to disbelieve the accusers. What I will say is because of that, and especially in the case of like Devlin with the whole renaming, which felt like which felt weird with the timing. It's really been hard to get into this. So the idea in the abstract of Finn Balor's protege, a guy as talented as McDonough, being kind of like the not the golem, not the worm tongue, but some combination of the both, trying to worm his way into the group, maybe mess things up for Finn, take his place, whatever it is awesome. But I got to tell you, I have a really hard time. And I know this is going to be a downer in a podcast to talk about, but I also think we have a responsibility with the platform we have here to at least acknowledge these matters, even if there's nothing we can say about them because we don't know shit. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring it up, and I thought it would be irresponsible of me not to. So we can absolutely move past this to talk about what comes next for Judgment Day. But Peter, I just felt like it was something I should bring up because it was
100%. And I agree. Like it is difficult seeing him in a prominent role on television, as it was with Riddle. Will Ospreay was indirectly mentioned in it, not that he was accused of doing anything, but blackballing an accuser afterwards. And those are guys who I've had a very difficult time. And like Riddle has been in extremely prominent roles basically his entire time on television for the last little while. And same thing with Will Ospreay being lifted up as the like best wrestler in the world in some cases. And now JD McDonough getting thrown into a spot here at the tippity top of what has been the flagship show for professional wrestling, with the exception of 83 weeks for the last 30 some odd years. Like it is really uncomfortable. And with how so much around that and around just the pro wrestling industry as a whole gets swept under the rug, even if there is an innocence, it's like could we at least prove something, like just it like you said, because there's such this air of like we just don't know what actually did happen. It's really tough to fully embrace these guys because it all feels incomplete around it, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm going to pivot to one of the funniest, controversial, probably in poor taste feuds ever. Do you remember back in the 90s when the Nation and DX and the Hart Foundation were feuding, and DX framed the Hart Foundation for being kind of racist towards the Nation? And I was like, these are the things that, by the way, sound ridiculous. And I wanted to say there's some funny, problematic shit in wrestling that I love. So look, I'm not here to wreck anybody's good time. But I just want to say, coming out of this, I'm going to hard pivot out. Finn Balor, I think is a class act in and out of the ring. I jealous of his 26 abs, and I just want to say that, like, I think Judgment Day's tag champs, the opportunities now to feud are incredible, and I really do see. I just, it's really exciting. My only downside is we've been seeing tag team Judgment Day main events for what, 3 years on Raw, not quite, but like it feels like it. I feel like now it's more justified than ever, but I don't need it now. I want to go see them on SmackDown feud with whatever the Street Profits Hurt Business group is. I want to see them feuding with New Day. I want on Raw. I want to see them, but they need to be the main event. I also don't want them to be the main event because I've got so much of it. So I think the trick moving forward will be, how do you make it feel fresh? And maybe different four-man combinations are the answer. But if next week we get Sami and mystery partner turns out to be Jey Uso against the three guys in Judgment Day, or maybe instead of Dom, it's Devlin. Sure, but like they're gonna have to find a new angle to it. The truth is, though, Judgment Day shouldn't have worked. It should not have worked. We all remember how it started. We remember how awkward it was. I trust everybody involved with this to make it work. I just hope we can keep things feeling fresh now as we have these new champs.
What do you think is next now for Kevin Owens and for Sami Zayn? That this was them winning the tag team titles was a huge moment, main eventing one of the nights of WrestleMania. I don't really know a purpose for them staying as tag team competitors, aside from the fact that they're just awesome and entertaining, but they're that on their own as well. Well, what do you think is next for these two?
I mean, obviously Kevin's going to turn on him at some point, but it's besides that, I think, look, inevitably, Cody and Jey Uso, and I know folks will get to Jey Uso, the two of them have to be involved with them because there's too much gristle. There's too much you can do now with Jey and Sami reunited. And maybe that is where your Kevin Owens split comes from. But like, there's too much you can do there. You can't leave it on the table. And Cody being the guy who brought these two friends together, who will probably help them make peace with Jey. There's just too much there. And when you put the four of them together and you add McDonough to Judgment Day, you got four guys there too. There's almost no way to get around that happening. My hope is that we can have some challenges for the Intercontinental title once Gunther loses at some point. I hope he breaks the record. And I think I'd love to see KO Seth again for the title as an interim thing. If until we get presumably Jey versus Seth. I'd love to see Sami versus Seth. I think that's the upside of Seth having the title still. You could get some of these incredible matches in a different way now. I also think KO has been the guy. Remember his Elias Ezekiel feud? He can make anything work. So I think the question is, who does KO want to work with? That's who you should work with. If you want to give me an extended feud of him and Tozawa, I'll take it because it's going to be awesome. So just point him where he wants to go. I just hope that Sami and KO aren't feuding anytime soon. They don't need to break up. They can just be brothers who are on their own solo missions. And I'd be really interested to see what it looks like to have a tournament where they end up in the finals and they don't turn on each other, but it's just them. And I'm not saying it's not an MJF Cole story, but I think you could probably, it's the closest thing I think WWE has to that. And I would love to see, them as solo competitors for a few things, and just not turning on each other. But I see more Judgment Day matches in the future.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Last one before we move off of this. I just remembered it now. When JD McDonough came out and broke that up, the way he gets kind of dealt with is KO does a pop-up power bomb to him on the table. And I don't know if he got too much of the table or not enough of the table, but he folded like full on and back, and it looked for a second like Corey Graves went, oh, he's dead. Like it looked like he sent him to hell with that one. It looked so painful.
One of the things I gotta say I love about KO, and he showed it again this match, and I swear we'll move on. KO is the most real person as a wrestler ever. He spams as long as somebody's working. He'll keep powerbombing. If it's hurting you, he won't stop. Because why would you stop? He talks like a real person. A lot of folks joke he's the only one who seems to watch the show because he remembers continuity. He holds them to the tag rope. His whole thing of you can't show up, I didn't say your name. It's just those are the rules. He is the ultimate, and I think everything I've heard about him is that he's an incredible human being. He's a cat guy, so that obviously makes Berkshire and I fans. He's just incomparable, and again, one of those careers that when it goes down, I'm so glad he didn't go to AEW or Sami because what they've done, they can only do what they're doing here, and they stand out more because they just KO especially fights like someone who's fighting, and the closer you are to prize fighter Kevin, the better a character you have. So I'm all for that. I know I did skip a match. I skipped Theory and Miz, not Theory and Miz, sorry, Theory and Ray, but I'm not sure that's what you want to go to next.
I didn't have honestly a whole lot on it. I thought they were setting up a turn with Ray coming out in the same vest and Cole bringing it up on the broadcast. This was the same. He hasn't worn this vest since Dominic Mysterio turned on him. I was like, oh my god, this vest is going to be cursed. Santos is going to turn on him. Santos is going to turn on him tonight. But I like it was a fine match. I will admit Austin Theory does nothing for me. Austin Theory is kind of the why would we buy a Grayson Waller? We have Grayson Waller at home. Like he just feels like the light version of those guys to me, so he doesn't do a lot for me. But if you have deeply insightful words on this match, but by all means go for it.
I'll try to get brief. I'll just say Austin Theory can do everything and somehow nothing at the same time for me. He is an incredible wrestler, incredible physique, good enough on the mic for sure. But I'm glad you brought up Grayson Waller because I know we should probably pivot to that. I couldn't help but when I watched Waller, I said, I know exactly who this guy is. The character is there from the ripped jeans at his knee. So much so I'm like, why are you wearing those? To like the shirt, which I want that stupid red shirt he was wearing. Someone tell me where to get it. And I don't know what Theory is. He feels like a hodgepodge of early Randy Orton with Tyler Breeze, with Grayson Waller, and somehow I don't know. And I'm not blaming him. It's not about him lacking. It's like he's incredible, but he's not specifically incredible. You know, I think the Cena feud exposed that, which is there's not one thing. So it's really interesting. Look, Randy Orton, when he started, a lot of folks said, "What are you?" And then he became Randy Orton. So I think there's more to Austin Theory. I still buy long-term stock in him. I just think he might be a guy benefit from not being around for a minute, and then we get reintroduced to a new Austin Theory.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he needs to go away for a little bit. But the version who we're comparing him to now, Grayson Waller, hosting the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes, which didn't have a whole lot to do with Cody Rhodes. He came out and announced that Jey Uso has signed to Monday Night Raw. And when the brand split, because there's been a lot of criticism of the brand split over the years, when I liked it the most was when Eric Bischoff and Stephanie McMahon were the GMs, and they were like poaching contracts from each other and stuff like that. I like this little detail where he quits on SmackDown and ends up on Raw. And I think, like you said, it opens up a number of different possibilities with Cody, with KO, with Sami. Potentially something with Seth Rollins as well. I thought the way they did it was like, it was a weird way of just get Cody onto the card, but I thought where we got to, the end destination was kind of fun with Jey Uso coming back with a slightly adjusted theme song as well. But what did you make of the newest Raw superstar, Jey Uso?
Look, I've said before, and it's not a name drop, Cody Rhodes is a dear friend. Nothing but love for the man, for his wife, Brandy, for their family. I could not be happier for him. Just healthy human being when I went to Raw after Mania, possibly the worst Raw in decades, I know, this year and out here in LA, but I was doing the whoa chant. I do it at home. It just hits perfectly. It is psychological catnip for me. Sartorial king of the mountain. Give me everything, Cody. And I will say, I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, new Jey Uso song, as Kofi Kingston tweeted. We need this. I need this on iTunes right away. Just me, down since Jay One-ish, just me, whatever it was. Those new lyrics hit. Just Jay's voice in the song hit. I'm going to be working out to that song on repeat for sure. I liked it more than Jimmy's new song. I really loved it. I will say there's something about the hands up and down that Jay does that feels completely him. And what works so well is the audience does it because everyone can do it. I can say this. It's like why Bollywood dancing. Anyone can do it. It's the most basic stuff. My people, we don't have rhythm, but we have presentation. And Jey Uso has presentation. And that is, what the minute he came out to that pop, I just said, oh, he's winning the world championship. The entire audience was there for him. Everybody was there for him. And I wish he'd been away longer, but here's what I love. Grayson Waller being like, man, you've been gone for like 2 weeks, which was so perfect for him to note, for him to acknowledge. Yeah, acknowledging it all. Again, it's if all he ever is a diet Miz, that's a hell of a career. But like he has his own approach to this that feels more. The Miz feels like the nerd in school who grew up and now bullies you. Grayson Waller feels like the bully from school who just got bigger and bullier. So like that's what kind of works to me for it. He's the jock who got successful and you hate him more for it. And so he was I thought Waller did what he needed to. I thought Jey coming on the show was weird, but like it felt like a moment. And there was a great tweet, I'm not sure if you saw after, from Grayson Waller, where he says, he attacked me unprovoked on this show. On my own show, he needs to be fired. And I thought it was a great allusion to something else we're going to talk about later. But Grayson Waller the Grayson Waller rub is an incredible, incredible thing to say. And I'm just going to say Jey Uso came out, and all I thought was world champion. Jey Uso, all time for me. But I know we got a few more things to get through, and I want to make sure we get through it.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was great and a cool introduction for sure. Admittedly, the next match, the Rhea Ripley against Raquel Rodriguez, at this point, I was having connectivity issues with Sportsnet, so I didn't see a ton of it. I saw Dom came in, got beat up in some way, shape, or form, and then Rhea Ripley hit Riptide for the win. Do you have any thoughts on the latest encounter between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez before we get into a couple of notes to put a bow on this one and then some AEW?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think following Jey Uso is incredibly hard. I don't think any match could have done it, so it was tough, at least for me. I think they're both really good wrestlers, and I think there was never any question about the result. I'm really glad every match in this card got a lot of time, and I'm more importantly glad that both women's matches got a lot of time. So even if the match wasn't my thing, the women deserve the time to show how much they can do. I'm glad they got it tonight.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. We are getting into the spot where for our Eastern fans, it's after midnight. Those of us in the Mountain Time Zone, which is the superior one, it's only 10:30. But for those fans out east, it's getting a little late. But you did want to hit a couple of awards. I'll let you say the heel one of the night because I would like to keep my job.
Yeah. We like, I'm allowed to say this because his wife is a big fan of mine, which is really the worst way you can think to introduce something. It is the Andrew Jerkshire Heel of the Night Award. Who was the biggest Jerkshire of the night in the best possible way? And I want you to go first, Peter. Who is it? Who is your Jerkshire of the night?
I thought it was The Miz. He's trying to rain on multiple parades, John Cena and LA Knight, and he did so, albeit hilariously, but unsuccessfully at the end. So I thought the Miz gets it for that.
Absolutely, The Miz. Now, like our good friend, like the namesake of this award, may piss you off, but as someone else says, tell me when he's telling lies, and he told no lies tonight.
And then the Steve Dangle pop of the night. That one I can say because it seems positive. I'll let you go first on that one.
Jey Uso, baby. That was incredible. That was a moment, and that's good. And when Jey in the Hall of Fame getting his induction, that's going to be there. That is a legitimate moment that tells you the bloodline stories work.
Yeah. I'll just to put a different one. I'll say LA Knight. When as soon as his music hits, the entire place erupts, but that's been going on for a few weeks. There is some other news in the world of wrestling we want to get to quickly here. CM Punk has been fired by AEW. He had recently come back after a backstage skirmish and was involved in another backstage skirmish, the seriousness of which I maybe was underestimating until tonight when Tony Khan said in a video that he felt his life was in danger backstage. That felt slightly hyperbolic to me, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. My life has never been in danger. I wouldn't know what that is like. But it kind of seemed like this was how this was all going to end at some point. I think there's a number of different layers to it from an AEW standpoint. The subtle shots that happen on the air, like I get they have made their name on a lot of inside baseball stuff, but when it's about guys in your own locker room, like there is a limit to it, I think, at some point. But a lot of different ways you can go. I don't want to lead the witness anymore. What did you make of the news today and how AEW handled it just 24 hours before a pay-per-view?
Yeah, look, I'm going to sound like a name dropper guy, but my career in entertainment has allowed me to meet a lot of wrestlers. I've written some WWE comics. So I will just say Punk's wife, April, is a very good friend of mine and my wife. So I am full of bias here. And so I will sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but this is generally how I view it. When it comes to Tony Khan, I treat it like the Me Too stuff we talked about. Believe the people affected by it, take their word for it. He says he feels threatened. He felt threatened. That's really what matters at the end of the day. I will say that, and I say this not because I was the biggest Punk stan ever, as much as I, respect a lot and have watched him for decades now. Um, I I can understand if, from his point of view, he felt certain people have been using media outlets to disparage him. With all the stories coming out about Punk lately, whether they're true or not, it certainly felt very coordinated. Doesn't mean it's not true. I think when you're in, if well, he felt he was in a toxic environment, I can get the reason he responds in certain ways. Um, I don't know all the details either, and that's a really tough part. All I can say is this: it does not seem like CM Punk and AEW was going to be a long-term fit. And I think for the sake of that locker room, at the end of the day, you have to remove the person who's not a great fit. On the other hand, Michael Jordan, when you watch The Last Dance, they always say Michael Jordan was a pain in the ass to play with, pain in the ass as a teammate, but he won you championships, so you made it work. I I hope that everybody involved in this finds their happiness. I hope that everyone is able to succeed in their lives and their careers. And while I don't think CM Punk is headed back to necessarily WWE, given how Seth Rollins referred to him as a cancer earlier this year, I think a CM Punk feud with John Cena, or a CM Punk short run where it was CM Punk, you're back, and the minute you lose, you're never coming back to WWE again. You get a few months of him winning and wondering if he's going to lose, a la the way Ric Flair ended his career, finally against Michaels. That could be really interesting for a swan song to put some people over, but I think maybe CM Punk is having fun on heels and he's living his best life, and maybe that's what's right. But man, 2 years ago, one of the greatest nights in wrestling when he came back, and I think it's sad. It's a bummer that this is where it ended.
It is like it kind of takes away from that awesome night. And that's what I was thinking too today about when he, funny enough, I was actually back here visiting again. And just that pop as the music hits for the first time in so long. And just thinking about where he was at that point to where things have got to now. I think like a WWE comeback would be fun. To me, I don't know why I thought this today, but him going to Japan, I think would be cool, but not even New Japan. Like, go do 6 months in All Japan or like Pro Wrestling Noah, just somewhere like a little bit off the beaten path. New Japan Pro Wrestling has all of their guys, but there's actually some really good stuff happening in Noah. All Japan, but just go to a place where they could like use another CM Punk boost. I think that would be a very him way to end it. And look, if this is the end, his last match was in front of 80,000 people against Samoa Joe, the guy whose rivalry to a lot of people will define his career. So if he just wants to be like, hey, man, fuck this, and just go somewhere else, I would completely understand it.
Absolutely. And look, honestly, if I had to have one other career for CM Punk, I wonder if he could be a hockey broadcaster. I think he would crush at it. He has the passion. And I would love to see a Leafs Blackhawks debate between Steve Dangle and CM Punk, and putting it out there.
Oh, that would be so good. I would love that. If we do ever have a game over Chicago, CM Punk needs to be the one to do that. But yes, it is never boring in the world of professional wrestling. Arune, this has been a blast, man. Thank you so much. If the people want more from you, and how could they not? Where can people find you social media wise?
It's only Twitter to me. I'm at Arune, Arune. I'm at on Instagram at Arune Singh, and then I'm on TikTok at Arune Singh because I'm Canadian. And so that's that's where you can find me. I work at Skybound Entertainment. I'll just say, if you're a Transformers fan, go pre-order Transformers #1. We're relaunching it October 4th. Comic shops everywhere. It is incredible. Daniel Warren Johnson from Chicago ties it all in. But just want to say, love and respect to the families of Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. Follow the Buzzards.
Yes. Perfect way to put a bow on this. My name is Peter Klein. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein, and I'm super entertaining. This has been Game Over Pro Wrestling. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. If you missed any of it, it'll be available in podcast form at some point soon. So yes, thank you all so much, and we will talk to you all later.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada.